For what reason is the United States actively preparing for military conflict in the Southern Caribbean? To answer that inquiry, we must examine the massive reactivation of Cold War infrastructure that has remained dormant for decades. What is occurring at the Roosevelt Roads Naval Station in Puerto Rico? Once the largest U.S. naval facility globally, this installation was shuttered in 2004, but reports indicate it is being rapidly brought back operational. The U.S. military is converting this civilian zone back into a forward operating facility. And what about the Henry E. Rohlsen Airport located in the U.S. Virgin Islands? This location isn't merely for tourists anymore. It is being transformed into a logistics hub to support heavy military transport. But for what reason is the U.S. accomplishing this right now? There are two primary triggers. Is it because of Russia and China? Affirmative. Intelligence suggests that Moscow and Beijing are not merely visiting Venezuela. They are attempting to establish permanent military installations. The U.S. observes this as an existential threat, a violation of the Monroe Doctrine that they cannot ignore. Is it about the petroleum? Absolutely. We are already observing the precursor to conflict. U.S. Coast Guard helicopters have been spotted intercepting and seizing petroleum tankers departing Venezuelan waters. They are choking off the regime's cash flow before the genuine shooting commences. If an attack occurs, what vessels are already positioned near Puerto Rico? The U.S. Navy has assembled a specific kill chain. They are utilizing the USS Jason Dunham, Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. Its role isn't merely guided missile destroyer. It is also an electronic warfare apparatus. The Jason Dunham is there to jam Venezuelan communications and blind their coastal radars. They are the initial line of attack to confuse the adversary. And for what reason is the USS Stockdale there? The Stockdale is the shield. Equipped with advanced Aegis missile defense frameworks, its function is to shoot down any anti-ship missiles Venezuela fires back at the fleet. But how do we comprehend this as an invasion and not merely a blockade? Because of the USS Kearsarge. It is a massive amphibious assault vessel. You don't bring this vessel unless you plan to position boots on the ground. It is designed to launch waves of Marines onto a hostile beach. But the U.S. isn't merely attacking from the north. They are utilizing the island nation of Trinidad and Tobago to close the back door. But how are they utilizing Trinidad? The U.S. Navy is utilizing these waters to blockade the Gulf of Paria. Here is USS Gravely, the Hunter. The Gravely acts as a sentinel, ensuring no Venezuelan submarines or fast boats can escape into the Atlantic to threaten shipping lanes. And what is the USS Lake Erie accomplishing? This Ticonderoga-class cruiser is the boss. It serves as the air defense commander for the entire operation, coordinating the movements of every vessel and plane from its high-tech command center. But vessels are slow. So, how will the U.S. deliver the initial strike? This is where the air authority comes in. The B-52 Stratofortress won't even land in the Caribbean. They will fly straight from the continental United States, deliver their massive payload of cruise missiles and return home without ever touching the ground. What about the B-1 Lancer? These supersonic bombers will be utilized for fast attacks. They can swoop in at low altitude and high velocity to destroy hardened targets before the adversary comprehends they are there. But where will the bulk of the Air Force fly from? This is why Roosevelt Roads in Ceiba, Puerto Rico is so critical. It positions tactical aircraft merely minutes away from the target. The MQ-9 Reapers will loiter over Venezuela for hours, tracking mobile missile launchers and taking them out with Hellfire missiles the moment they relocate, while the F-35s will be the door kickers. Their function is to penetrate Venezuelan airspace undetected and destroy the S-300 air defense batteries so the other planes can fly safely. Here are V-22 Ospreys' speed and versatility. These tilt-rotor aircraft will launch from the USS Kearsarge in Puerto Rico to insert special forces teams deep behind adversary lines. But all that firepower will require fuel. So, the KC-130s, these tankers will orbit near the combat zone, allowing the F-35s and other jets to remain in the fight for hours without returning to facility. And finally, why the C-17 cargo transports for logistics? You can't sustain a conflict without supplies. The C-17s will be flying non-stop into Roosevelt Roads and Henry E. Rohlsen Airport, bringing in the tanks, the ammunition, and the troops required to sustain the attack. So, is the attack inevitable? When you observe the bombers on standby, the amphibious vessels in position, and the forward facilities being reactivated, it appears like the determination has already been made. How will the U.S. destroyers and strike group confront the Venezuelan military and the cartels? We will examine different scenarios and strategies from both sides. The U.S. Navy's destroyers, submarines, amphibious vessels, Marines, and P-8 Poseidon aircraft are positioned near Venezuela with a multifaceted strategy designed to confront confront both the Venezuelan military and the powerful narcotics cartels operating within the nation. From the U.S. perspective, the operation combines overwhelming surveillance, targeted strikes, rapid amphibious assaults, and maritime interdiction to neutralize threats and apply pressure on the Maduro regime. The destroyers provide advanced air, sea, and missile defenses while maintaining the capability to launch precision cruise missile strikes against strategic government and military targets deep within Venezuela. By maintaining a vigilant missile defense posture, these vessels are prepared to intercept any hostile air or missile threats. They also leverage anti-submarine warfare assets to secure the task group's maritime perimeter against underwater threats posed by naval forces. In surface combat, the destroyers defend against militia boats or Venezuelan naval vessels attempting to disrupt blockades or amphibious operations. As the designation suggests, a destroyer is equipped to carry around 90 missiles with its vertical launching framework, a Mark 45 deck gun positioned at the front, followed by close combat phalanx, and a CRAM missile framework. But that's not all. It also houses Harpoon anti-ship missiles and torpedo tubes for threats underneath. And if that's not enough, there's a submarine hunter-killer Seahawk equipped with sonar and torpedoes featured in the upcoming video. These warships are designed for destruction and defense, but they are not suitable for invasion. But how do you launch a land invasion from the seas? The answer is these amphibious assault vessels are specialized warships designed to deploy and support ground forces during military operations, particularly in hostile or contested environments. They resemble modest aircraft carriers but are primarily focused on launching and supporting helicopters, vertical or short takeoff and landing VTOL aircraft like the V-22 Osprey and F-35B Lightning and amphibious landing craft. The amphibious vessels carry thousands of Marines trained for quick expeditionary raids and large-scale amphibious assaults. These Marines would execute precision strikes on cartel strongholds, government command centers, or key coastal infrastructure. Their urban combat training equips them to seize airports, communication hubs, and other critical points, potentially operating in concert with opposition forces inside Venezuela. Here comes the nuclear-powered attack submarine. It operates covertly and silently along Venezuela's maritime approaches. It collects vital intelligence by intercepting communications and monitoring naval activity. It can deliver surprise long-range missile strikes to disrupt regime command and control, jam air defenses, or destroy military facilities. Its presence also deters any third-party naval reinforcements from nations like Russia or Iran, complicating any attempt to bolster the Maduro regime. The P-8 aircraft extend the task force's eyes and ears over a vast area. They conduct continuous intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance flights deep into Venezuelan airspace and waters, tracking air defense installations, military movements, and cartel smuggling operations. These aircraft operate closely with surface and underwater naval assets to designate targets for missile strikes and monitor submarine activity. They are also capable of electronic warfare operations to disrupt Venezuelan communications and command networks, limiting the regime's operational responsiveness. But for what reason is a single submarine a huge threat to an entire navy? The answer is these torpedoes. So, let's examine how it operates. Pressurized air propels the torpedo toward its target. Step number 2. A piston engine with propellers maximizes the torpedo's velocity. Step number 3. It trails a wire plugged into the weapon's frameworks aboard the sub utilizing information to navigate. Step number 4. The torpedo accelerates to 32 knots over 35 miles an hour with a range of 8 miles or 12 kilometers. Step number 5. As it nears its target, the wire is severed and its sonar takes over navigation. Step number 6. If a torpedo misses its target, it can circle back and commences hunting the target with its sonar. This one torpedo has the explosive authority of 1,200 pounds of TNT. And I presume you do not desire to be at the receiving end of this weapon, but reports suggest that novel breed of Barracuda torpedo or supercavitating are going to be the latest upgrades. But how would Venezuela counter the U.S. command of the seas? While the military and cartels prepare to defend the regime and preserve their control through a mix of conventional and asymmetric tactics, the Venezuelan military, although smaller and technologically less advanced, relies on knowledge of local geography, layered air defense sites, and large-scale militia mobilization, reportedly numbering over 4.5 million to counter amphibious assaults and defend key infrastructure. The military employs coastal and naval patrols to challenge U.S. naval operations and utilizes missile frameworks to threaten incoming aircraft and vessels. The Venezuelan cartels, deeply intertwined with some military elements, utilize their familiarity with the terrain, fast boats, and smuggling networks to complicate maritime interdiction. Their tactics include evading surveillance through irregular routes, blending with civilian traffic, and leveraging the dense jungle terrain for cover against raids. Thus, the likely conflict scenario involves layered U.S. efforts to monitor and interdict cartel trafficking by leveraging aerial surveillance and naval interdiction combined with submarine strikes and missile attacks against regime military infrastructure to degrade their response capability. While U.S. amphibious forces would act decisively to seize strategic points, suppress resistance, and isolate Maduro's loyalist elements, this is how Venezuela would mount a hybrid defense combining conventional military resistance, local militia networks for asymmetric warfare, and cartel tactics to sustain illicit operations and slow U.S. advances. This complex confrontation reflects both sides' strategic priorities. The U.S. pushes to dismantle narcotics networks and exert regime modification pressures with overwhelming technological and tactical superiority, while Venezuela relies on numerical militia mobilization, intimate knowledge of the terrain, and asymmetric tactics to counterbalance its technological and firepower disadvantage. And finally, here comes Russia. Russia is likely to supply Venezuela with long-range drones like the Shahid and Garin drones. These drones could be deployed by Venezuela for covert strikes against U.S. assets, leveraging their loitering capabilities to conduct precision attacks on airfields, command centers, or logistics hubs. This would be component of a broader strategy to counter U.S. military pressure and project asymmetric threat capabilities. If this provided you a novel perspective, hit subscribe. History possesses the answers. I'll demonstrate you where to look.